The Fletcher, the very, very short interim of Fletcher's era is over. I don't think we expected, too much, but, he didn't win a game, and, it was really poor against Brighton. Looking forward now, we are looking at Michael Carrick. He is, the new interim coach. What do we know about who's going to be joining them, Crookie?
Yeah, I think this is the most fascinating element of it, really. We were the first, I think, to report that Jonathan Woodgate, his trusted assistant at Middlesbrough, someone he's become very close to, actually, during the course of his coaching career, would come in. I wasn't sure how that would go down with United fans with a Leeds connection, but I haven't seen too many dissenting voices. Obviously, Johnny Evans is staying on. They did offer Fletcher a role, as I understand it, but he decided he'd be better served going back to the under-18s and maybe in terms of his longevity at the club, that would be a better move. But a really interesting one for me is Steve Holland. Obviously, Gareth Southgate's former assistant at England, someone who's worked with some of the top coaches in the game, actually, the likes of Jose Mourinho and Carlo Ancelotti. Yeah. And I think it's a really intelligent appointment, because it was one of the things Eddie Howe did when he came in at Newcastle, actually. We know that Eddie has a certain entourage. He likes to take around with him, with Jason Tyndall and Stephen Purchase and others that have always been with him from his time at Bournemouth. But he kept on Graham Jones at Newcastle, even though they didn't have any pre-existing working relationship. And I think when I was speaking to people close to Eddie at the time, they were saying, well, it's not a bad thing to have a voice from outside your inner circle who's going to give you maybe more of a truer opinion on things. And I think certainly that's the case with Steve Holland. Now, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you might suggest that one of the reasons Steve Holland has gone in there is because he's sounding the place out for Gareth Southgate ahead of a potential summer appointment.
That will float round. That will float round, and I think because we haven't really got a massive confidence in Ineos to make good decisions, you can look at it from that sort of negligence and be like, I could see what they're doing here. But it does kind of lead to some sort of lazy analysis of Steve Holland, because like Crookie said there, like, he's a very good coach.
Very
he's been
experienced.
Part of title-winning teams, very experienced, worked with the best managers, and to a lot of reporting, he's taken a lot of those England sessions where England were doing really well under Gareth Southgate. Yes, we all know we get to the final hurdle and couldn't quite get over it. But there's a reason why England improved. It wasn't just because Gareth Southgate got everybody on but the man management side. The sessions must have been good as well. Yeah. So Steve Holland is a good coach. Whether that transpires to work out in this 16 games or so, we're going to wait and see. But I don't think we should be discrediting his CV as an actual coach, and he's in the position that he should be, which is just a first team coach, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think for me, when I started hearing about the Michael Carrick situation, when I saw that list of people that would be assisting him, that's the only thing that made me feel better. When you see a name like Steve Holland, who has so much experience, Jonathan Woodgate, he also has managerial experience. I know he didn't do the best job, but again, still has that experience, has that relationship with Carrick. Johnny Evans, I know that he recently quit his job as the club's head of loans and pathways. I don't know if he's just got a contract and got to give him something to do, but the one thing I will say is he does know these players. He's been playing with them very recently, so I'm sure that he will be able to offer some good insight. I was actually reading again, though, so only Paul Scholes and Anderson are left to take the interim positions, and then all 5 midfielders in the 2011 Champions League final squad will have had controls of Man United. I reckon Anderson's more likely than Paul Scholes, because he ain't touching it. So Anderson's retired now, so who knows?
English?
I don't know. We'd figure it out. And Wayne Rooney's thrown his hat into the ring and said, I'm not begging for a job, but because obviously Wayne Rooney, Michael Carrick, Johnny Evans were all on holiday together in Barbados recently, obviously get along. Nice of him to say that he'd help out, but I think not going with Ollie is the right decision for me. I think there were no guarantees that he would have restored a sense of positivity. I think Michael Carrick's got more experience in English football of recent times, obviously. And you look at the Middlesbrough situation. I mean, that first season, he did well getting them to the playoffs. Then it seemed like season by season, he did slip away, but you also have to think at Middlesbrough, he did a very good job developing players as well. You look at someone like Morgan Rogers that he worked with. So that fills me with confidence. And I know that he's spoken so highly of someone like Kobbie Mainoo. That fills me, with a bit of excitement, thinking he's going to go in there and try to get the best out of, some of these younger players. Maybe someone like Shea Lacey will stay within the mix. Maybe he can help with him. But it's a weird one, because in some ways he's got nothing to lose. He can just go into this and just do the best that he can. But, it can't be a write-off the rest of this season. We still have to try and get European football. I know a lot of people are looking for this top four because we're only a couple of points off Liverpool, etc. But I'm not sure that I'm that bothered about Champions League football. I get that there's nothing else to play for and that's why people want it. But I just think a European place of some sort is a non-negotiable now.
Crookie, what are you looking at in terms of expectation? Because I know I have seen you sort of say what you feel that Ineos are doing is, maybe, chucking another season down the pan and just sort of staying there to get some form of Europe, maybe beyond Champions League. But with the situation that Michael Carrick's in, what's happened with the squad, do you feel that we're in a better position without Ruben Amorim now with these set of situations with somebody like Michael Carrick who's going to play a different formation, etc., to get Champions League football? Or do you think it's harder for Michael Carrick now and the expectations come down from yourself?
Well, I always felt like we were in a bit of a false position anyway. Even when we had all those game weeks when we were knocking on the door of the top four, had we beaten Everton with 10 men? Have we beaten West Ham? Have we beaten Wolves? Have we won that game against Burnley? Suddenly we find ourselves in a Champions League place. But I never felt like the performances were really befitting of such a lofty position in the league, even when we have won games this season. It's not been convincing, is it? You can pick holes in a lot of the performances. I thought it was really interesting to hear Darren Fletcher come out after Brighton and encourage the players, don't waste this season, and to say, look, this is a team that is capable of earning a Champions League place. He's really been the first person who's come out and made that an objective. We know privately Ruben Amorim was told that he had to qualify for Europe this season or his job would be on the line. So I think that's still the aspiration to get in the top 7, which would be enough for a European place. But I think we're going to see a more exciting brand of football. We're going to enjoy watching Michael Carrick's team. You only have to look at the stats from his time at Borough. I've got them in front of me. During his tenure there, they were top of the charts in the Championship for goals, total shots on target, XG, if you believe in that, big chances created, touches in the opposition box and successful passes. So that's going to be the DNA.
Do you think that can correlate to the Prem? Do you think that can correlate to this level, going up against the type of teams that are in the Premier League? Listen, the Championship, very difficult league. Of course, did that with Middlesbrough, but we saw Ruben Amorim chart topping, with a Victor Gyökeres chart topping, but the Premier League is a different animal.
Yeah, but you look at his first spell in charge, and I appreciate it's a different makeup of the squad now. That game against Arsenal, his last game in charge was pretty exciting stuff. We got a last-minute goal from Ronaldo, didn't we, when he was there to get us into the knockout stages of the Champions League. So, yeah, I've got faith in Michael Carrick, and I want to point out none of my complaints on air, when I've been quite negative about Ineos and the idea of a caretaking manager, have been directed at Carrick. I do think Carrick is a better bet than Ollie, and I'll go back to the point I made when I was on with Sam Matterface and Gabriel Bonlahor 10-1 last Friday. No other Premier League club would entertain the idea of appointing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So why on earth would we have thought it was a good idea? Whereas Carrick, genuinely, I think if he does well in this caretaker spell, I think there will be clubs who are looking in. West Ham, for one of his former teams.
Weren't
I think
Wolves after him at one point?
I think Brighton were. I think he was a lot closer to getting that Brighton job before Fabian Herzler was appointed than a lot of people realised. So that to me is the level. And by the way, I've met Tony Bloom on a few occasions. I spent a bit of time with him socially. He is an absolute genius. And if he was willing to entertain the idea of appointing Michael Carrick, that's good enough for me. So as much as I said at the top of this programme, I'm quite pessimistic and negative about Manchester United at the moment. I think Michael Carrick will at least provide some entertaining football. And who knows, maybe a European place and even a Champions League place is not completely off the table. But it's going to be difficult with this squad. How do you polish a turd? Ugarte was dreadful, wasn't he, on Sunday. Dorgu, who they've turned into a winger because Amorim got rid of all the other wide players, is not good enough. Šeško, actually, last couple of performances under Darren Fletcher, maybe reasons to be encouraged by what he's doing.
Yeah, Diogo Dalot in at right back as well. He's doing all right at the minute.
He's useless, to be fair.
You've reeled him in with that one. Yeah. Actually, quickly, before we move on, what's your understanding as well of Michael Carrick getting this job long term? Is that a no-go? Is it an understanding that he can't get that job? Or if we supersede expectations and finish second?
Yeah, what if he got us second or third or something? What are we saying?
Well, listen, he's clearly a winner and he's an ambitious character. So he's not going to come out publicly and say he doesn't want the job beyond the end of the season. But I think the understanding is that he is just keeping the seat warm for a bigger name. I think that was part of the issue with Ollie, actually, when he came out last week and made it known to us in the media, or his camp did anyway, that if he did well, he wanted the job full time. I think that set alarm bells ringing in the corridors of power, because make no mistake about it, if we were recording this show a week ago, Ollie would have been the favourite, and Michael Carrick maybe, second in the sort of rear view mirror. But there was a definite change after his camp maybe got a little bit too leaky in the middle of last week.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, at a time when we're so directionless and soulless, I think it's really important to try and have some perspective over that type of emotion. But finishing uncharacteristically or surprisingly high, there still needs to be a plan of not, following on from what we've done previously, which is, look at what happened with Ollie. And I don't want to use this as a stick to beat Michael Carrick with and sort of discredit his coaching and just say he's going to go the same way as Ollie when no one's going to want him. I don't believe that. But we have to get somebody experienced. We have to get somebody ready for this role. And I don't think that 16 games, for good or for bad, it should be Michael Carrick. But
I agree.
And I'm not confident, and maybe this is the pessimistic Flex talking, the empty Flex talking. Like, I'm just not confident we're going to get that type of bounce that when Ollie was there. The squad's different. Yeah. The squad that he's inheriting is made up for a 3-4-3.
They're in a worse position.
Exactly.
He was taking over a side that, yes, there was all the drama with Mourinho, but, he'd got him to second. He'd won him a trophy. Like,
exactly. Something more was there.
Yeah, like mentality-wise, they were in a completely different place. And I know that a lot of people speak about when Ollie was in charge and about how Kieran McKenna and Michael Carrick were arguably the brains behind the operation, which is another reason why I think he's the right pick. And I think Carrick wasn't afraid to be a little bit ruthless when he was last in charge with United. Like, I know that he was very close with Juan Mata, for example. Didn't really give him a look in. I think he came on as a sub a little bit. I think he dropped Bruno Fernandes as well. Yeah, which I don't.
And Ronaldo, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do that, obviously, because it was due to Bruno's poor form. But, when players come back from AFCON, I think if he has to make a couple of brutal decisions, I don't think he'd be afraid to. The main concern for me moving forward now is obviously the news that Real Madrid have got rid of Xabi Alonso, which just means that when United are going in for, hopefully, because we don't know what they're going to do, but you would like to think they're going in for high-profile big managers to take over. You've now also got Real Madrid that you can argue are in a much better position in some ways. Maybe in other ways they're not. You could argue whichever. You've now got them also that are potentially speaking to similar people. So they've really got to pull the finger out here. And unfortunately, with Jason Wilcox's behaviour, I have absolutely no confidence in that. So that was another thing hearing that news yesterday that kind of worried me.